Bitcoin, crypto, bubbles, passive indexation. There's a lot of financial jargon out there. Old Mutual can help you make sense of it all and give you great advice to make the right decisions. If you've got a question or want to know how to get the most out of your money, call them on 0860 60 60 60 or speak to an Old Mutual financial advisor or your broker. Today's the day. Get great financial advice so you can do great things. Old Mutual is a licensed financial services provider. So tonight's Make Money Monday's guest is Riaan Manser. He is an adventurer. Often he goes on his adventures solo. He's ridden a bicycle around Africa. He's paddled around Madagascar. He's paddled around Iceland. He has done lots of crazy things. He then took his then fiancée, now wife, Fusty, and they rowed across the Atlantic, making her the first woman in the world to do that, and him the first African to do it, I think.
We were the first in the world. Hi, good evening, Bruce. We were the first in history to ever row that route, but
that you know of.
That we know. Yeah, you're right. It's like every time we landed in America, we came out of TV shows, and the guys would tell us, "Oh, it's wonderful," but
Columbus did it before you, and the Vikings may have done it before, and the Polynesians may have done it. Yeah.
Christopher Columbus, we landed at the same spot where he landed in 1492. So it was special to land on that little beach in San Salvador. But the point is, Christopher Columbus never, ever touched North American soil. His toes didn't wiggle in that sand. Never, ever. He never made it.
Because you went from San Salvador, then you bobbed up the coast, Florida, all the way to New York.
Into New York City Harbor. And people who know that monstrosity of a place, that harbor is intimidating for people on a 6.9 meter little rowing boat. But
you get taken out by the Staten Island ferry. Boom! Thanks for coming.
I told my wife, I said, she was my girlfriend still at the time. I said to Fusty, wait until we see that ferry. That thing just runs in between, back and forth, and doesn't care for little rowing boats. It was exciting, but a big relief to finish that journey.
Tell me about what your job actually is. What is it?
Yeah, I think I've got better at answering that. Normally, if we're out somewhere, Fusty's an advocate, so it's easy for her. I'm an advocate. I perform in the High Court. For me, it's difficult. I usually tell people in the past, I used to say I'm unemployed. and now I know what business I'm in. I think I've realized that I'm in the entertainment business. My business is entertaining. It might just be a little bit risky and a bit dangerous, the acts I perform.
You and Bear Grylls?
No, but I'd see myself in a different space than Bear Grylls. Bear Grylls is great at television work. He wasn't around when I'd started with my business, and I was doing it so I entertain. I love the writing. I mean, I really, really love the writing. It's just you cannot really pay the school fees with the writing. No. And I had to find economic activities around what I do. One of them is speaking. Once you can be relatively astute or proficient at your addressing audiences and then delivering a good message, people are willing to pay you, because they're looking for fresh thoughts and ideas at conferences. So I'd say I'm a professional speaker, probably.
But the worse your experience, the better your stories, the more saleable you are. So you've got to take yourself to the edge virtually every time.
Bruce, I haven't had an interview with somebody who's actually realized that. I have said to Fusty, you spoke about that New York trip. It was our first rowing trip. It was our second rowing trip. We went across to Hawaii from California.
Easy.
But on that first trip, we rowed out of Agadir Harbor, and I said to her, Fusty, I'd love to have a very, very safe crossing of this ocean. I'd love to, but we wouldn't have a story to tell. And what scares me now, before we hit our first storm, is that we're going to have life and death moments. And those life and death moments are going to be the worst and most traumatizing that you and I have had as a couple. But that's what's going to pay the bills.
So you've got to aim for the storms. No, they're going to hit you anyway.
I'm past that now. I'm dodging them properly.
How long have you been doing this?
17 years.
What was the first adventure?
It was the cycle around Africa. That was the bicycle trip.
You started big.
Yeah, I did, but I was naive. It's so beautiful. I think in my business, I've been so privileged to sit next to real business leaders and doyens of many industries, and I've sat next to them, and I know that they also started with some level of naivety. Nobody started knowing everything. My bicycle trip, the enthusiasm and the tenacity that I employed just on that trip alone was thanks to my naivety. Because it looks as if I was brave. It looks as if I was pioneering. It looks as if I created a new business space. But I was just naive, and I love that. And I see that in so many other business people that I rub shoulders with.
2 years it took you, 34 countries, 37,000 kilometers, lots of spare tires and tubes, no doubt, over that period of time.
120 tires, yeah.
What's the closest you've ever come to thinking, this person's going to shoot me, this person's going to cut my throat, this person's going to lock me up in a jail, and nobody will ever know where I've come from? Because that's happened a couple of times, not just in Africa, in other parts.
Other places too.
Madagascar was rough.
Yeah, Madagascar was probably, I'd say, that holds my record for the most imprisonment. I mean, people write, foreigners come to Africa and they get held by the Metro Police in Sea Point, and they'll write a book about it, about how close they came to, and they saw the white light and everything. And I have unfortunately really been to spaces where I did believe it was my last day. So it hasn't been fun. Bruce, for me when you said now where the places I've been, I flashed back to where I was in Liberia, in the jungle with those drugged up kids that weren't really concerned about. We're not even talking about whether they have to hide me. I mean, the dogs would have eaten me if they had killed me that day, 26th of February, 2004, and they would have stabbed me to death. They were so high on drugs. I'm nervous now when I think of it. I try to think of how I felt that day and whether what you're getting at was I sober enough to say, is this all worth it? Because, I mean, that's what it gets to, and wow, I mean, I got away from that, and I still remember I was determined. I remember 1 kilometer after them letting me go, 8 hours later, I calculated what speed I needed to do to catch up the hours that I'd been held by them. And I don't, beat my chest and stand up in front of audiences and say, I am tenacious. I proved it to myself, not to anybody. 1 kilometer later, I calculated what I needed to make up. But I don't want to be in those risky scenarios for the rest of my life. It's not an intelligent approach to having some skills.
You have a 9-month-old baby.
Wow.
And that has got to change everything. So from being the consummate risk taker, calculated, a planner, somebody who looks at these trips and looks at the risks and says, okay, if this happens, here's some scenarios, got the satellite phone, got the best tech, the stuff that Columbus didn't have. If we really get into trouble, there's a chance we might be saved.
Exactly.
But you're still taking risk. That must fundamentally change. Have you done an adventure since your baby was born?
Nope, I haven't. Yeah, no, it definitely has changed the way I see everything, every single last thing. And I think if you have contingencies in place, I think if you're willing to understand that contingencies are part of an adventure because things don't go your way, you'll be okay. I mean, you just mentioned it again, hit the nail on the head. Christopher Columbus didn't have all the stuff. Our boats were significantly smaller than his sailing boats, and they moved a lot faster than us. But he had the risk of mutiny.
Scurvy. You had vitamin pills. You were fine. We're going to talk about the money bits in a moment because this is important. And we're talking to Riaan Manser this evening, our Make Money Monday special edition guest, solo adventurer, entertainer, a guy who is going to be inviting you, if you are an adventurous sort, if you are somebody who's got certain characteristics, to join him on his next adventure. Riaan Manser is my guest this evening, Make Money Monday special edition. Are you good with money?
I am a little bit of a miser, so I don't know if that's a good thing. In some people's books, that would be pretty good, but I'm a miser, and I think I invest relatively well in what I term to be good investments.
What do you term to be good investments?
Bruce, I think I didn't put it under my bed. I reinvested in our business. I think I've felt that I've always been one that's paved new routes in this business that we can call adventure, or the space that I'm in. And I don't know exactly. I'd say it's a niche space that I operate in. I'm able to make a decent living, but I know that I reinvest. I don't just try and rake in profits. If I get paid for a talk and people think it's expensive, that's okay. But the talk is actually funding this whole story that people are willing to invest in, because the money goes back to the next big thing.
So, I mean, and here's the risk, a bit like farming, I suspect, because, I mean, once you harvest all the crops, you make some money, you pay off last year's scolt, and then you go and put the crops in the ground and then pray that it's going to rain again.
Exactly.
And it rains, and you make a bit of profit, and then you pay off last year's debt, and you then put it back in the ground again.
Best way to describe what I do.
You're mad.
I
thought the biggest risk is not rowing across the ocean in a storm. It's funding the next project.
I've been useless when it comes to if I was sitting with people and we started, scratching a bit deeper and where I've put in some reasonable amount of money. So I bought gold coins at one stage because my friends to go over 2,000, and the gold was at trading at
Did you buy Bitcoins?
No, never.
Okay, no, gold coins are still better than Bitcoins.
Are they? Okay, yes, but I bought it like 1718 when the gold was up there. And I sit with a pile of these things which are not even, I don't think I could sell them all and get half my money back.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to hold on to them. Maybe they are worth something in the future. I don't know.
So you are prone to people's tips and advice.
Not at all. I actually was in a space where I said, Riaan, you've made that little bit of profit. Show me some commitment, having that little pep talk to myself and say what would be safe. And
you talk to yourself a lot. I mean,
do.
You would have to. You've got nobody else to talk to. You're cycling around the African continent, seeing different faces every day. You talk to yourself. So you pep talk to yourself.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I'm a bit hard on myself, I think I'm overcritical of myself. I just take every decision I make and I just take it apart and say why. But the one thing that I wanted to do was show commitment. And the one thing that I did after my bicycle trip, on that bicycle trip, I spoke so much about showing fusty commitment in a relationship and showing financial commitment. That was buying the building. The only place we could afford was Betty's Bay. But we did it. And now in a property, it's awesome. But buying the coins was just saying, Riaan, people for years and years and years. It's not a fashion. It's not a trend. Gold is good. Buy some. So it's sitting there. I'm feeling very foolish right now, but it's okay. Gold will come back.
And worth more today than it was yesterday with the rand behaving the way it does. You must have the world's most expensive life insurance and the world's most expensive disability cover. All of that sort of stuff that costs enough as it is. Have you found anybody to insure your life?
Yeah, so we've got policies that cover us, but with a few exclusions. And that's sort of what bothers me a little bit. It's just because I declare that I do what I do. I feel it's a little bit unfair for me to be excluded on the basis of me being honest, because Bruce could go tomorrow to Sierra Leone and you could hang out there and take a left turn when you should have taken a right turn out of your hotel and land up in a difficult spot.
It's different if I do it every single day. And you unfortunately take an extraordinary number of risks. So, I mean, there is that risk that you face. When it comes to investing money and putting it aside, do adventurers have retirement annuities? Do you have a pension plan?
No, we've been saving money. It's probably the biggest downfall if we spoke about the first rule. And if you were to ask me for a regret, I would tell you that it was not putting away that little bit. When you get out of school, and friends of mine, I can tell you that put away 90 Rand a month that when we left school, and all of us said to them, are you crazy? What you could do with that 100 Rand, it's just the weekend.
You can have a job
away.
all weekend.
And that's my most successful. My best friend owns 30 London properties worth $1 million each. South African, schooling like me. That guy is a landlord of note, really. And he started with that principle of the 100 Rand. So I feel I missed the boat of learning the lesson of putting away the 100 Rand. It's not that he got paid out 400,000 Rand 20 years later. He learned the lesson of putting away 100 Rand. I missed that boat, but I'm making up for it. I pay taxes now that I have my son. So if there's something that we need to do for him, we put away triple the amount we would have initially, and we suffer, if you could call that right.
No, but you go without. You
go without.
You go without as a result of it.
Yeah.
No, see, you are responsible somewhere, part of you, deep down. What's been your best money decision ever?
I'd say definitely making the decision when I came back from the bicycle trip to buy the land. I didn't know, the land had really shot up in value. I was away there 2003, 2004.
When land just went mad and house prices went crazy.
And I was wanting to buy this piece of land, big piece of land for 200,000 Rand in Gordon's Bay. Can you believe? On the mountain, overlooking the beauty of False Bay. I got back and that was worth $1 million. Now I was suddenly out of the game. A guy who wasn't earning an income, no offers of jobs or income from anybody in the world.
No bank could give you a bond.
No bank would give me a bond. And I had to start finding a creative way. And that's probably what I've been able to do for the 17 years is be creative in how I show a bank that I am solid. I'm a guy who thinks clearly. I can string a sentence together. And I'm not just some foolhardy guy running into war zones. I'm not. I appreciate a capitalistic environment. I appreciate equally that the world out there and nature's as interesting. But no, I think definitely buying that property. And now, we own a property now. We're looking at how can we reinvest. If it is property, I don't know. But where can we move money to now?
What has been your worst money decision other than the delay? Because all of us, well, not all of us, most of us, I think most people are guilty of not putting the 90 Rand away as youngsters and getting into the discipline, because that discipline is absolutely vital.
Sure. Worst money decision, I think, I think mine's still coming. I haven't really had one where I've said, wow. I do believe that we bought some expensive cars. We own some expensive cars, and you can listen to a buddy over a beer and he'll tell you that write it off to tax, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to buy a 1.2 million Rand car. You don't need to. Even if your bank account is looking great for those few years and you really have put away money, you have no rights in business buying a 1.2 million Rand car. The cars, come on, man. A to B, you can get a very good car for half the price.
So cars are a problem?
Yes, I wanted my family to be safe. I think I've made the right decision now with the vehicle we bought now. But it's such a big decision in South Africa that unfortunately, economically, you are forced in this space, the way our business runs with a lack of infrastructure, that you need a vehicle. And I'm not going to drive around in a little Bantam bucky with my baby on the lap.
Yeah, no, and if you can afford to, it is exactly the right decision to make from a lifestyle perspective. When it comes to enough, how are you going to assess it? Because doing what you do is highly physical, and you're a young, fit, strapping man. How long can you carry on for?
I think I need to hang up my boots sometime. I definitely will. I think I've learned a lot of things about other aspects of my business, from the TV making aspects to running a business where I can give other people opportunities, which I think I'd love to do. But I've got a few years left in me, definitely. I've always been a storyteller.
What's next?
No, we definitely are. We're throwing a net wide to offer the greatest opportunity. I know what it's taken for me in these years to be able to do some big journeys. The ocean rowing is because I wanted to rope my wife, and I've just realized what that feeling is. I want a South African with a great story that you would never have imagined, Bruce. Somebody, if I said to you, who do you think can't row an ocean? That's what I'm hoping will come out of South Africa.
So what's the address I'm entering?
Good. Well, we've actually got an SMS line. It's you SMS the word row, ROW, to 39400. And then it just asks, you'll get a message from us that will ask you to fill in a little form, and you're in the mix. The entries close end of this month, midnight, end of this month.
Does anybody have to pay anything?
Not a cent. It is me doing all this work to be able to give somebody in South Africa that opportunity.
And what they need to be somebody of extraordinary character, physical ability, personable, because you're going to be, and they've got to like you, and you're going to have to like them, because you're going to be stuck in a confined space for 2 months.
In that little cabin, 2 months. Yeah, we ask some basic questions. Can you swim? Do you have a passport? Those aren't deal breakers. So if you can't swim, come with the attitude.
It's not going to make much difference in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Thank you. So, I mean, I sit around a table and people say, oh, you've got to have somebody that swims. And then I say, hey, listen, I'm an expert in this business. I know it's not going to help much. There's no ships that will save us quickly. The guy's going to be wearing his life jacket. We're looking, I really, really hope, and I mean, this is me personally. I'm not one of the judges. The judges will be selecting this person, but I know the heart. I want to tell a story that our country we've got so many beautiful people in this country. We've got so many people that want to get on. Politicians tell us every single day we don't want to. We do. Every single person in this country wants to make South Africa great, except the politicians, except them. And I want to do a story that we show to the world about what South Africans really are.
SMS the word row to 39400 if you want to spend quality time with Riaan Manser. He's a nice guy. I'm not entering because I want to give you a fair chance. Riaan Manser, thank you so much for coming in. Make Money Monday special edition guest.
Cheers, Bruce. Thanks.